It was a cold evening when Arya Stark sat by the river, sharpening her blade needle. She had been alone for a long time, moving through the woods, hiding her face, and dreaming about revenge. Her list was still fresh in her mind: Cersei, the mountain, Pain, and more. The world had taken everything from her, and she was ready to take something back. That night, as she camped in an abandoned cabin, a noise from the trees made her grip her sword. Out of the darkness stepped a large man, his face burned on one side. Sandor Clegane the Hound. She stood up quickly, eyes full of fire. "You again," she said coldly. The Hound chuckled. "Don't look so happy to see me, girl. I saved your life more times than you care to count." They stared at each other in silence for a while, but the cold wind and hunger didn't care for old grudges. They shared food, and Arya allowed him to stay. The next morning, another surprise came. Gendry, the blacksmith, and Arya's old friend, appeared on horseback. He had been searching for her ever since he left Storm's End. He looked stronger now, more confident. When Arya saw him, her face softened. "Gendry?" He smiled. "Took me long enough, didn't it?" Together again, the three of them sat around the fire that night, and Arya told them her plan. She was tired of hiding. She wanted to face the Lannisters, face Cersei. She wanted to bring down the people who destroyed her family. The Hound grunted. "You think 3 people can take down the Lion's Den?" "I don't think," Arya replied. "I know we can." Gendry wasn't sure at first. He knew the Lannisters had power, armies, and gold. But when he looked into Arya's eyes, he saw the girl who had survived everything. He saw the same fire that had kept her alive when the world had turned its back on her. He nodded. "Then let's do it." The plan was simple, at least on paper. Cersei was still in King's Landing, surrounded by guards and allies, but there were weak spots. Places the soldiers didn't care to guard. The Hound knew the city's dark corners. Gendry knew the underground tunnels. Arya? She knew how to kill without being seen. For the first time, they were more than just survivors. They were a team with a common goal: take revenge. They traveled through the Riverlands, hiding by day and moving by night. The land was scarred by war, villages burned, fields empty, people hungry. The Lannisters had taken everything. As they passed through one broken town, they met a small group of people who had lost their homes to Lannister soldiers. An old man told them how his son was killed for hiding food. A mother wept for her daughter taken by gold cloaks. Arya's hands curled into fists. They need to pay. The Hound didn't say anything, but his silence was loud. He'd seen too much of this. Gendry, too, was no longer the soft-hearted boy from the smithy. The Lannisters had left their mark on them all. One night, as they camped near the Blackwater River, Arya stood looking at the glowing city in the distant King's Landing. Her eyes didn't blink. "We go in tomorrow," she said. The Hound spit into the dirt. "Hope you've got more than needle for what's coming." Arya smiled slightly. "I've got both of you." The next step was dangerous. They had to enter the city without being seen, stay hidden among the people, and find a way close to the Red Keep. Arya would go inside, Gendry would open the tunnel gates, and the Hound would be the distraction. It wasn't a perfect plan, it was crazy. But revenge usually is. And so, with hearts heavy but focused, the three of them moved closer to the lion's cage, ready to pull it down brick by brick. The gates of King's Landing loomed in front of them by sunset. Smoke hung in the air, the stench of sweat and rot mixed with the sweet scent of roasted meat from street vendors. Behind those walls was the woman Arya hated most in the world, Cersei Lannister. Disguises were their first step. Gendry stole uniforms from a pair of drunk gold cloaks in a tavern alley. Arya cut her hair even shorter, smearing ash on her face to look like a poor orphan boy. The Hound, already feared and known, kept his head down and wore a cloak that shadowed half his burned face. They entered through the southern gates at dawn, walking with the crowd of traders and peasants. Nobody looked twice. Hunger and fear had taken away people's curiosity. The city was restless. Cersei sat on the throne again, after Gendry's death, but the people had stopped cheering. Her rule was cold, bitter, and cruel. Inside the city, whispers of rebellion stirred. The people feared Cersei more than they respected her. The gold cloaks patrolled the streets with hard stares and quick hands. Any sign of trouble, and they struck like wolves. They found shelter in an old collapsed bakery in Flea Bottom. It reeked of mold and rat droppings, but it was hidden. From here, the plan would begin. "We've got 3 days," Arya said. "That's how long until Cersei's name day celebration. She'll be exposed. People will gather. Perfect cover." Gendry nodded, drawing a rough map on the dusty floor. "There's an old tunnel under the city leads to the Red Keep's wine cellars. I helped clear it out years ago. Still there, if it hasn't collapsed." The Hound sat back, chewing stale bread. "I'll create noise near the market square. Fire, screams, maybe kill a few of her dogs. That'll draw attention." Arya looked at both of them. "I'll go in alone. I can get to her." "No," Gendry said quickly. "You don't have to do this alone." "Yes, I do," she said, voice firm. "She's mine." The next 2 nights, they moved in silence, watching guard patterns, sneaking supplies, gathering word from locals. People were suffering. A girl in the alley whispered to Arya about her brother, taken to the dungeons for stealing bread. A butcher told Gendry the Lannister soldiers demanded taxes twice a week, gold or blood. The city was ready to burn. It just needed a spark. On the final night, the 3 of them stood in the shadows, overlooking the narrow path that led toward the Red Keep. "You sure about this?" the Hound asked. Arya tightened the strap on her sword. "I've waited too long to stop now." They split up under the dark sky. Gendry slipped into the old sewer tunnels. The air was thick with filth, but he moved like he had years ago when he was just a bastard boy with no name. He found the rusted iron gate and pried it open, coughing through the stench. The Hound went to the market, dragging barrels of oil and broken wood. When the guards came to stop him, he let them get close, then smashed a hammer into one of their skulls. The fire started quickly. Screams followed. Arya waited for the moment chaos erupted. As smoke rose and guards ran toward the fire, she moved. Through side alleys, past panicked nobles, into the keep's lower levels where silence screamed louder than noise. She moved like a shadow, needle in hand, heart pounding. Faces of the dead flashed in her mind: father, mother, Robb, even little Rickon. She found a side stairwell, avoided a drunken guard snoring in a chair, and reached the upper hallway that led to Cersei's chambers. Then she saw her. Cersei, dressed in red, walking down the hall with 2 Queensguard behind her. Her face cold, lips curled in arrogance. Arya stepped back into the dark. Her grip on needle tightened. She wasn't afraid. Not anymore. But before she could move, something went wrong. A cry echoed through the keep. "Attackers! Intruders in the tunnels!" Cersei stopped. Her eyes narrowed. Arya's heart sank. Someone had seen Gendry. Everything was falling apart. The alarm bells rang like a hammer to the skull. Guards scrambled through the hallways, shouting orders and unsheathing swords. Arya pressed her back against a cold stone wall, just inches away from discovery. Her eyes darted across the corridor. Cersei had already turned, her guards rushing her back toward her chamber. Arya cursed under her breath. Gendry had been spotted. The tunnels weren't as secret as he'd hoped. She had one chance left. She ducked into a servant's corridor, twisting through narrow passages, filled with the stench of old wine, sweat, and rats. Her legs moved fast, quiet like a cat, eyes burning with focus. Meanwhile, Gendry was bleeding. He had barely opened the last grate leading into the cellar when a guard appeared from the shadows, sword drawn. Gendry fought back with nothing but a dagger and his blacksmith's strength, slashing the man's throat, but not before being stabbed in the side. He crawled into the tunnel, dragging himself with bloodied hands, muttering Arya's name. He knew he'd failed her. Above, the Hound stood in a ring of fire. The marketplace was ablaze, bodies scattered around him, some guards, some unlucky fools. His hammer was soaked in blood, and yet he kept fighting, drawing more and more soldiers to him. "Come on, you Lannister whores," he shouted, laughing through gritted teeth. "Come see what fire tastes like." One arrow struck his shoulder. He grunted and ripped it out. Another sliced across his thigh. Still, he stood tall. Still, he swung. Inside the Red Keep, Arya watched as Cersei was rushed into a guarded chamber. 3 Queen's guards stood outside, tense and alert. Too many. She couldn't take them all. Not like this. Not alone. But Arya didn't come to knock on the front door. She moved back through the hidden walls, retracing her path through the stone maze of the castle. When she was a girl, she'd played in Winterfell's tunnels. This was no different, just deadlier. Her mind was racing. She needed a face. A disguise. Then, as fate would have it, she found it a dead handmaiden, slumped in a laundry room. Her throat was slit. Probably collateral from the guards clearing the castle. Arya moved quickly, cutting the face clean and donning the servant's bloody dress. It was disgusting, but it worked. Minutes later, she walked calmly toward the Queen's chambers, head lowered, hands folded. The guards didn't even glance twice. "About time," one muttered as he opened the door. And just like that, Arya Stark stepped into the lion's den. Cersei was pacing by the window, sipping wine with trembling hands. She looked older now, less of the proud lioness, more of the cornered rat. Her eyes were sharp but haunted, the smile on her lips forced. "Leave the wine on the table," she said, without turning. Arya obeyed, moving silently across the room, heart thudding like thunder in her chest. Every second brought her closer. Needle rested under the tray, hidden by a napkin. Arya reached for it slow, steady, calm. But then Cersei turned. Her eyes met Arya's, narrowed, and something in her expression shifted. Recognition. "You," she whispered. Arya's hands moved like lightning. She grabbed Needle, kicked the table toward Cersei, knocking the wine from her grip. Cersei screamed, "Guards!" Arya lunged forward, blade flashing, but Cersei dodged just in time, falling to the floor. The door burst open. Arya had seconds. She slashed one guard across the face before diving behind a pillar. Crossbow bolts flew past her, embedding in the walls. Cersei crawled toward the exit, blood on her lips, eyes wide with rage and fear. "Kill her!" she shrieked. "I want her head." Arya rolled to the side, flipped the tray, and hurled it at a guard's legs. He fell hard. She was outnumbered, cornered, no way out, but Arya Stark didn't come this far to die. She kicked open a side window, glass shattering, wind howling into the room. Below was a ledge, barely wide enough for a foot. She jumped, clung, slid down the wall, scraping her palms raw, landing hard on a rooftop. She didn't stop. Blood dripping, lungs burning, she ran. Back through the alleys. Back through the screams. She had missed her chance. But the war wasn't over. The Queen was scared now, and Arya was still alive. Arya didn't remember how many rooftops she crossed, or how many times she nearly slipped and fell into the alleyways below. Her legs moved on their own, driven by rage and failure. Blood ran down her arm from a cut on her shoulder. Her heart thudded in her ears. She had been so close to ending it all. But Cersei was still breathing. She made her way back to Flea Bottom, where the bakery ruin waited empty and cold. Gendry wasn't there. Neither was the Hound. Panic flared in her chest for the first time in years. Then she saw the blood trail near the door. Her stomach dropped. She followed it down to the cellar, heart racing, and there, against the wall, sat Gendry, his shirt soaked in blood, his skin pale, hands clutching a torn cloth against the wound in his side. His breathing was shallow, but his eyes lifted when she entered. "Arya," he whispered. She dropped beside him instantly, pressing her hands over the cloth. "What happened? Guard saw me. I got the gate open, but—" He winced hard, biting down on a scream. "Didn't get far." She shook her head, fighting tears. "Idiot. You weren't supposed to get caught. I thought I was stronger," he said, eyes searching her face. "Did you get her?" Arya looked away. "No," she whispered. "I had her. She saw me. She screamed. I ran." A heavy silence fell over them. Gendry leaned his head back against the wall. "We failed." "No," Arya said fiercely. "Not yet." She stood, her face hard again. Cold. She couldn't afford to feel. She turned to go search for the Hound when he stumbled in through the broken door, blood dripping from 3 wounds, dragging a sword behind him that wasn't his. Arya ran to him. "Sandor," he grunted. "Still alive, girl." Barely. His eyes scanned Gendry's pale face, then turned to Arya. "Did you kill her?" Arya didn't answer. He dropped to the floor, groaning. "Told you this was madness." "She's scared now," Arya said. "We shook the lion's den. Should tighten security. We have one last shot if we get inside again." Gendry coughed weakly. "I'm not going anywhere." "You're not dying either," she snapped. The Hound looked at Arya, something almost like respect in his eyes. "If you're serious about this, there's one more way." She frowned. "What?" "There's an old tunnel below the Sept of Baelor. I heard about it from some rats, back when I was guarding the king. Leads straight into the Red Keep's heart. Dangerous. Rotten. But no guards." Arya nodded slowly. "When do we leave?" The Hound looked her over. "You sure you still have the fire for this? She'll be expecting you now. She'll have dogs at every door." Arya clenched her fists. "She saw my face. I want her to remember it when I take her last breath." The next morning, Arya tended to Gendry as best she could. He wouldn't be moving for days. She kissed his forehead before she left. He didn't protest, only held her hand weakly, eyes glassy with pain. The Hound and Arya moved like ghosts through the city, slipping through the alleys, bloodied but alive. They reached the Sept ruins by nightfall, where rubble still whispered of fire and dragons. The tunnel was hidden beneath a cracked stone near the altar. The Hound kicked it open, revealing black stairs that led down into darkness. "Smells like death," he muttered. Arya didn't flinch. Perfect. They descended into the tunnel, torches lighting ancient carvings on the walls, stories of kings long dead, prayers lost to time. Halfway through, the Hound paused. "Listen," he whispered. Voices. Guards. Footsteps echoing in the tunnel ahead. They weren't alone. Arya stepped forward, blade ready. "They knew about this too." The Hound chuckled darkly. "Looks like the lioness learned new tricks." Arya narrowed her eyes. "Then we teach her the old ones." They moved fast, slicing through shadows, each step leading them deeper into danger and closer to the queen who'd survived too many ghosts. But this time, Arya wasn't just carrying a blade. She was carrying fury. And fury never missed. The tunnel grew tighter as Arya and the Hound moved deeper, their torches flickering against damp stone walls. Water dripped from the ceiling, each drop echoing like a warning. The air smelled of mold, rust, and something older like forgotten graves. The voices ahead grew clearer. 3 guards, maybe 4. Arya pressed her back against the wall and looked up at the Hound. He nodded, tightening his grip on his stolen sword. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Revenge had already tied them together. As the guards' lanterns came into view, Arya moved first. She slipped into the shadows, disappearing like she had never been there. The Hound stepped forward openly, letting the guards spot his huge silhouette. "You," one shouted. "The Cleggan traitor." The Hound gave a crooked grin. "Thought I'd visit old friends." The guards rushed him, blades raised. Steel clashed violently in the tight space. The Hound roared and swung, sending one man crashing into the wall. Another stabbed him in the arm, but he yanked the blade out and slashed the man across the chest. The fourth guard turned to run. He didn't get far. Arya dropped from above, needle slicing his throat clean. She landed softly, wiping the blade on his cloak. Her eyes were cold, focused, deadly. "You're getting faster," the Hound muttered, panting. "You're getting slower," she shot back. They continued through the tunnel, stepping over bodies, moving through winding paths that seemed to twist endlessly under the city. The deeper they went, the hotter the air became. A faint orange glow flickered ahead. They reached a cavern beneath the Red Keep massive, hot, and filled with old dragon bones, piled like forgotten history. The skull of Balerion the Black Dread stared at them, dusty and silent, its hollow eyes watching. The Hound whistled softly. "Never thought I'd see this again." Arya didn't stare long. "Where does this lead?" The Hound pointed to a narrow stone staircase carved into the wall. "Up there. Leads to the lower throne rooms. From there, well, that's your path." They were almost at their final strike. But as they climbed the steps, a blast shook the walls. Dust fell from above. The tunnel groaned like it was waking from sleep. "What was that?" Arya whispered. The Hound frowned. "Sounds like another blast. Louder, closer. Then a scream from above. Then dozens more." Arya's heart dropped. Cersei wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. She was burning the city. Again, when they reached the hidden door and pushed it open, the sight before them was chaos. The Red Keep's lower halls were on fire. Servants ran with buckets of water. Guards shouted orders, their armor glowing from the heat. Smoke filled the air. Cersei's voice echoed down the hall as she barked at her soldiers. "If the intruders are still in the tunnels, collapse them. Seal every exit. I don't care if half the castle burns, do it." Arya's jaw clenched so tight her teeth hurt. "This ends tonight," she said. They moved through the smoke-filled corridors, avoiding guards and slipping past burning tapestries. The Hound smashed through anyone who blocked their way, each swing fueled by anger and exhaustion. Arya danced between flames, her small frame moving faster than the fire could catch. At the top of the stairs, leading to the main audience hall, Arya paused. Cersei stood inside, surrounded by guards. Her golden armor gleamed in the firelight, her face twisted with fury and fear. The Hound looked at Arya. "This room's full of her men. Once you step inside, there's no turning back." Arya's eyes darkened. "I didn't come here to leave," the Hound grunted. "Then let's give the bitch her ending." They pushed the doors open. Flames roared behind them. Cersei's eyes widened in shock, then narrowed into pure hatred. "Arya Stark," she spat. Arya stepped forward, needle raised. "You killed my family, and I'll kill you," Cersei hissed. "Just like I killed your wolf of a father." The room erupted. Guards charged. The Hound roared. Arya leapt forward. The final battle had begun. The throne room blazed like a furnace, smoke curling along the pillars and licking the banners of House Lannister with flame. Ash floated through the air like snow, and the golden lion above the Iron Throne seemed to sneer in the chaos. Arya didn't wait for the guards to reach her. She moved first. Fast as wind, she ducked low and sliced behind the knees of the first soldier, who screamed as he crumbled. The Hound was right behind her, crashing into the rest like a storm, hammer in hand, crushing skulls and breaking steel. Cersei backed toward the throne, her calm cracking. "Kill them," she shrieked. "Kill them both." But her men were already falling. Arya was a blur dodging blades, ducking arrows, her eyes fixed only on the woman in gold. One guard lunged at her with a halberd. She grabbed the shaft, flipped it, and drove the blunt end into his throat. He choked and fell. The Hound took a spear to the side, but didn't stop. He roared like a dying beast and drove his weapon through the gut of a soldier half his size, blood spraying across the marble. Only 2 guards remained. They looked at each other, saw the rage in Arya's eyes, the madness in the Hound's, and ran. Cersei stood alone now, pressed against the throne she had clawed and lied her way onto. Her golden armor was cracked, her crown askew, but she still held her chin high. Arya stepped toward her, needle pointed. "It's over," Arya said. Cersei raised her chin. "Do it then." "But you're no better than me, girl. You came here to kill, same as I always have." Arya's face didn't change. "You burned families. You ordered the murder of children. You watched the world fall and smiled. You think this makes you a hero?" Cersei sneered. "You think killing me will bring your father back? Your wolf brother? Your king of a brother? They're still dead, Stark. And when I'm gone, another Lannister will take my place." Arya stepped closer, so close their noses nearly touched. "No," she whispered. "Because no Lannister will be left." She raised needle. But then she stopped. Not because of doubt, but because someone else entered the room. Jaime Lannister, bloody, limping, sword in hand. His face was a mask of pain and guilt. "Arya," he said, breathless. "Let me speak to her." Arya's eyes flicked to him, then back to Cersei. No more talking. She turned the blade quick as breath and slashed Cersei's cheek. Blood bloomed down the queen's face like a tear. Cersei gasped, hands flying to her face. "That's for lady," Arya said. "My direwolf." She slashed again, a deeper cut across the arm. "For Ned Stark," another across the side. "For Robb." She kicked Cersei down to her knees. "For my mother." And then she drove needle through the gold plate, under the ribs, deep into the beating heart of the Queen of the 7 Kingdoms. "For me," Cersei gasped once. Then she was still. Jaime collapsed to the ground, silent, watching his sister his sins die in a pool of her own royal blood. Arya stood over the body, chest heaving. The Hound leaned on his weapon, watching with grim satisfaction. "She's dead," Arya whispered. Jaime looked at her with hollow eyes. "Then so is the throne." Flames roared higher in the background. The Red Keep was falling. Arya turned and helped the Hound walk toward the exit. Jaime didn't follow. He sat beside his sister's body, eyes closed, waiting for the fire to claim them both. Outside, the city was burning. Arya and the Hound made it out through the sept ruins, stumbling, coughing. The streets were chaos ash, smoke, screams, and joy. The queen was dead. The lion had fallen. Arya looked to the horizon. For the first time in years, she didn't feel empty. She felt done, but not free. Not yet. Dawn broke slowly over the ruins of King's Landing, casting long shadows over shattered towers and blood-stained streets. The Red Keep still smoldered in the distance, black smoke coiling into the pale morning sky like a dying dragon's last breath. Arya stood on a rooftop overlooking the city, wind brushing her face, ash tangled in her hair. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just watched. The queen was dead. But the silence that followed wasn't peace. Down below, the city was tearing itself apart. With Cersei gone, the Lannister guards began fighting among themselves. Some fled, some looted. Gold cloaks were dragging women from homes, blaming them for harboring traitors. The power vacuum left nothing but violence. The lion's head had been cut off, but the body was still thrashing. Arya turned as the Hound limped toward her, his shirt soaked in dry blood, face pale. "We did it," he muttered, wincing. "You killed the bitch." Arya didn't answer. She was watching the gates now riders pouring in from the countryside. Armed men wearing no banners. Rebels, opportunists, bandits dressed as heroes. "The city's not saved," she said. "It's just waiting for the next monster." He spat into the wind. "That's how it always is." Behind them, Gendry approached slowly, bandaged, leaning on a staff. He was weak, but standing. He smiled when he saw her. "You did it," he said, voice hoarse. Arya finally looked at him, her expression softer now. She stepped toward him, wrapped her arms around him gently, her cheek pressing to his chest. For the first time, her body let go of the fight. Just a little. "I thought I lost you," she whispered. "I'm too stubborn," he replied, holding her tighter. "Just like you." But peace was short-lived. A horn blew in the distance, one Arya recognized. Stark banners, wolves flying high. And beside them, Targaryen sails on the Blackwater. Arya narrowed her eyes. "They're here." Jon Snow and Daenerys Stormborn. The game wasn't over. It was changing. By midday, soldiers had reclaimed the throne room. Daenerys entered through fire and smoke, her face stone cold, her eyes burning with the hunger for power. Jon walked beside her, tense, tired, already doubting the path she walked. Arya didn't wait to be summoned. She walked in like she belonged there, needle still stained with Cersei's blood. Daenerys turned. "You killed her?" Arya nodded. Jon stepped forward, shocked. "Alone?" "She died slow," Arya said calmly. "She deserved worse." Daenerys stared hard, a flicker of something dangerous in her gaze. "You acted without order, without trial. That wasn't justice. That was murder." Arya took a step closer. "And burning thousands alive was what? Freedom?" The room went silent. Even Jon looked down. Daenerys clenched her jaw. "You did what no army could. But that doesn't make you a queen." Arya's eyes burned. "I never wanted to be queen. I wanted to end the ones who thought they had the right to rule over corpses." The Hound leaned against a pillar, muttering, "Bloody hell, girl. You going to fight her too?" Daenerys stepped forward now, her voice like steel. "The throne is mine. This city will rise again under fire and blood. And no rogue Stark will threaten that." Jon flinched. "Dany," but Arya cut her off. "I've seen your kind before. You think you're different. But you're just another ruler who thinks burning the world makes it clean again." Her voice dropped, low and deadly. "I killed one queen already. Don't make me regret leaving a second alive." Guards tensed. Blades shifted. Arya didn't move. Jon stepped between them. "Enough." He looked at Arya, pleading. "We came to save the people." She looked at him for a long time. "Then save them. Because I didn't come here to play your Game of Thrones." She turned and walked away, out of the hall, out of the fire. That night, Arya stood at the docks with Gendry and the Hound beside her. A small ship waited quiet, humble. "Where are you going?" Gendry asked. She looked at the horizon. "West," she said. "Beyond the maps." Gendry stepped forward, eyes searching hers. "You don't have to keep running." "I'm not running," she replied. "I'm just done living in a world ruled by names and crowns. There's nothing left for me here." The Hound gave her a long look. "So that's it, huh? Kill a queen, start a fire, sail into nowhere?" Arya smirked. "Sounds like me." She hugged him tight, surprising them both. Then she kissed Gendry softly, the goodbye already written in her eyes. "I'll always remember you," she whispered. And with that, she stepped onto the ship. No banners, no throne, no titles. Just a girl with a sword heading west into the unknown, where no queen could follow, where no fire could reach. where the wolf could finally rest.